What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at this 2024 Chevy Blazer LT. So I've taken a look at the Blazer RS several months ago when it first came out, not only on this channel, but also on my tech channel, Mets Tech, where I cover EVs more in depth. And back when I made those videos, I felt that the Blazer EV was a ridiculous purchase for a couple reasons. The biggest reason was, of course, the price at around $60,000 for the RS that I was looking at. But also there were a lot of software issues that the Blazer was having, so much so that they had a stop sale and they literally didn't sell this thing for like probably a couple weeks, maybe a month before they resolved all those issues and then restarted. And when they restarted, they lowered the price by a lot. I think that they overshot the market. I think they thought it would do better than it is. They needed to course correct a little bit, and now we end up with this iteration of the Blazer. And in this video, I'm gonna attempt to answer the question, is it worth it now? So this Blazer LT inherently, just being a lower trim level than the RS, is going to be cheaper, right, overall. So 60,000 or thereabouts for the RS. This one stickers at about 51,000, but right off the bat, Chevy gives you an EV credit, drops that down several $1,000s to around $48,000 for this specific model, and that's before the tax credit. So you apply the tax credit, $7,500, that's gonna knock you down to about $41,000 for this LT all-wheel drive. So let's take a look at all the features that you get here on the Blazer LT all-wheel drive and see if it's really worth that $42,000. So starting up front, you've got a full suite of LED headlights here. You have LED taillights in the back as well. But really, the grille is pretty simplified, and I'm actually a big fan of that. You take some of the kind of bolt stylings here with the little faux grille piece here that just has a little bit of textured elements on it. You've got a little bit of actual air intake at the bottom to cool the battery. But other than that, it's pretty simplified, and I'm actually a big fan of that. I don't like when EVs overcomplicate the front grille because it's unnecessary, but you do have a Chevy bow tie here. That is a gold bow tie. On the RS, you will get a black bow tie. Then really, like, other accents, pretty minimal. Little gloss black accent here, some gloss black faux air intakes there. Pretty simple though. You do have a front-facing camera that's going to work with your surround vision camera system. The bottom lip looks like it has a little radar sensor down here, and that's about it. Now, under the hood of the Blazer, there's not really a whole lot to see. They just give you one giant piece of black plastic here that covers all of the mechanical bits. They give you a couple little access points, things like windshield wiper fluid. This is to disconnect the battery. Little things like that here and there for repair purposes, but really you don't get to see anything. You don't get a frunk, that's a big issue, and you don't really get to see the mechanicals. Not that you really want to, but you don't get to. But other than that, there's not a whole lot going on in the front. Now we get a little bit of cladding up around the wheel wells here, and then this LT is sitting on these 19-inch machine finished aluminum wheels here with painted pockets. Whatever that means, these are very kind of EV style wheel, right? There's not a lot of air intake for max efficiency, and you pretty much just get these little tiny slits there that you can actually see through to the brake calipers and things. Nice clean wheels. I think they look nice. If we move back here, you have your charging port. Now this is one of the more dramatic parts of the Blazer. So you push these two little dots here and the whole panel kind of folds out and gives you access to that charge port area. So you've got a little LED light that goes around the charge port that helps show whether it's charging or not. Then you've got your standard J1772 plug, and then you can pull this little piece out, obviously get access to your DC fast charging. This Blazer has a max charge rate of 150 kilowatts, and it has an 85 kilowatt hour Ultium propulsion battery pack. That's Chevy's newest battery technology. And then if you use the onboard AC charging, you get 11.5 kilowatts of charging. On the all-wheel drive version, you're gonna get about 279 miles of range, EPA estimated range. You're never actually gonna get that, but that's what they estimate. You're probably gonna get somewhere closer to like 240, 250. Depends on how you drive, obviously. Tons of factors go into that. And push this little button here, and the panel will slowly fold back in for you. Boom, there you go. Now you've got body colored power folding heated side mirrors here. They're auto dimming for driver's side, and they have blind spot monitoring built in and cameras underneath that work with that HD surround vision system. Some nice body lines here, nothing too complex. But you get a little indentation here that I think looks really nice. Keyless access on the door panels with these little silver buttons. Satin roof rails up top. No sunroof on the LT here, but you can get it on some higher trim levels. And I just want to point out, I am really stoked to get my hands on a Blazer SS and see how quick that thing is with 550 something horsepower. It's gonna be amazing. I cannot wait for that. All right, then moving to the back of the Blazer here. Like I mentioned, you do have LED taillights here. They're kind of a Y-shaped design to them. I think they look really nice. A little bit of a spoiler to keep stuff off your back windshield, but you know, your back windshield juts out so much that it's not really gonna work too well. So they gave you the world's tiniest rear wiper. Sorry, average rear wiper. But if you do happen to get stuff on this back windshield, it's gonna give you this much of clear windshield if you need it. More gold Chevy badging here. You get your Blazer EV badging, which I'm a huge fan of. I love how they integrated the little lines there into the E. And you get some all-wheel drive badging over here. Rear camera underneath as well. Some ultrasonic parking sensors dotted around, some reflectors here. You get a little reversing light there, and then just a nice clean diffuser at the bottom and some plastic cladding. Now the LT here does come with the trailering package, so you've got the trailering equipment, but the all-wheel drive will only get you 1,500 pounds of towing capacity. If you want your best possible towing capacity, go with the rear wheel drive, the single motor version. That will give you 3,500 pounds of towing capacity. We do have an AutoSense power liftgate. I talked about this in my secret features video. Check that out if you haven't seen it. We can open it right up, and you get a couple things back here. You get some hooks, you get room for a cargo shade, some LED lights back here, and then of course you get Chevy's dual level charging cable here. So this has a J1772 plug on one end, then you get this little brick that has interchangeable outlets basically. So you get a 110 volt outlet you can plug into your standard outlet, and they also give you a 240 volt outlet that you can plug in if you have something like a dryer plug or you have a specifically installed EV charging plug. I used this when I had my 2022 Chevy Bolt, and I had a 240 volt outlet put into my garage, and this was huge. Helps it charge way quicker than your traditional 110 volt. 110 volt could take anywhere from 30, 40, 50, 60 hours to fully charge. With something like this, that's 240, you're looking at probably 7 to 8 hours to a full charge. So big difference here. Definitely take advantage of that if you can. Got a license plate cover bracket for the front, and then up underneath, you're gonna have even more storage area. So this looks like some kind of shade, and then there's a tire inflation kit back here and just all kinds of storage space. You can keep your dual level charging cable back here just for easy storage, and you get pretty good cargo space back here in the Blazer. It's not amazing, but it's pretty good. And then you can drop your second row seats here with these little levers and get access to even more storage space. Button to close her up here, and we can go ahead and hop inside. All right, so here inside the cabin, you'll really notice kind of some of the drop off here because it's an LT model. Some of the interior materials are just at a lower tier overall. And I'll try to give you guys some side-by-sides of what you kind of get in the RS versus what you get in the LT, but just some of the door materials, you know, some of it's plastic where it would be kind of a leather material, and that's just what you expect at the lower price point. Let's go ahead and just work our way all around the cabin, talk about everything we've got going on inside here, starting with the door materials. So there is a soft touch kind of leather material up top with some accent stitching. Then you have a textured plastic here, and then a little bit of a gloss plastic accent that mirrors what you've got going on right here. More of that leather with accent stitching, then a fabric material underneath, and then basically everything from the armrest down is going to be hard black plastic. You do have a trunk button here, speaker system here. You've got some vents up here. I think these vents are really, really cool looking. I've talked about this before. So a little bit different than the Camaro, where the Camaro you can actually twist to get the vents to close. This one you just kind of physically twist it and it clicks, and that's how you know there's no air coming out, but you can pivot it all around inside of its little socket here. It's got a really cool accent on the outside frame. You've got an electronic parking brake, your lane keeping, auto vehicle hold, and then your brightness control for your displays here. Manually tilting and telescoping steering wheel here. But you do have a nice steering wheel here. It's a leather wrapped heated steering wheel. It's huge. That's something I noticed right off the bat when I got in here. I'm like, man, this is a big steering wheel. Some people like that, some people don't. You do have adaptive cruise control here on the left side, media controls, and your heated steering wheel button on the right side. Gold Chevy bow tie in the center, little satin accent at the bottom, some accent stitching around, and you do have your region on demand button. I'm calling it a button specifically because this one just clicks. It doesn't have as much easing as the old Bolt ones did. This is more just a click, 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 but super nice to have that. Lights and wipers on the left stalk here, and then the right stalk is your gear shift stalk. So park is a button, reverse is in and up, neutral is just straight back, and then drive is in and down. Now past the steering wheel here, you've got an 11-inch driver information display, and this has Chevy's newest infotainment graphics package. It's all powered by Google, and you'll see that over here on this display, but that same theme carries over to the driver information one as well. You can switch through different views with this button on the steering wheel here. So you can get one where you can see your Google Maps dead center of the screen. You can see one that shows your assist systems. You can show a super clean one. I'm a big fan of this one. And then you've got ones that have more information. And then of course you can customize what what is on the left and right side as well. Tons of vehicle information there. Anything you could want to know, you can see on this display. It's nice, crisp, clean graphics. If we move on over, you have a massive 17.7-inch driver infotainment display here. You really have to see this thing in person to understand how large it is, but it just feels like it just never ends. And it's almost edge to edge. There's a really thin bezel around it, but it looks so nice, super fluid and responsive. No issues whatsoever with the usability of it, at least in my limited experience. You can pull up vehicle information. You get a 3D model of your car that you can pivot around. You know, this is powered by Google, like I said, so you've got Google Assistant, Google Play Store, Google Podcast, Google News. You've got your different drive modes that you can switch between. On-screen climate controls, of course, a Wi-Fi hotspot. You've got your charging menu, Google Maps, like I said, and you can pair your phone via Bluetooth. Now, one big thing to note, there is no Apple CarPlay and no Android Auto. So if that is an absolute deal breaker for you, you just don't have it here. They said it's for safety reasons, although they leave it on all their gas cars. So if you're a heavy Google user, you're probably gonna love this system. If you're an iOS user, you can still like the system, but you just won't be able to mirror your phone, unfortunately. But you can connect to Bluetooth if you wanna listen to music that way. And you also can connect to the My Chevrolet app. And then you've got some on-screen controls. Now, there's a lot of information on this screen. I don't have time to cover it all in this video, but I did make my secret features video, like I mentioned, where I talked about some of the more in-depth hidden things that you can do inside of this menu. I'll have it linked down in the description and in the card above. Of course, you can put it in reverse and get access to your HD surround vision camera system. My only big complaint about this camera system is that they put it on like this much of the screen, right? Literally this much out of the 17.7 inches of screen real estate. They cram it all over on the side and then give you this massive oversized menu that does not need to exist. So I really hope that's something they change in the future, because that was one of my favorite things about my Bolt was I had that 10-inch screen. The whole camera filled up the screen. It was great. This, not so much. But you can switch through these different camera views, which is always nice to have. Now, I mentioned you do have on-screen climate controls, but you also have physical controls for your climate down below, so people are gonna like that. You got a physical dial to turn up your fan speed here, temperature dial on the left side, and then you've got on off, auto, AC, heat, and then your defoggers as well. More vents down here, 3 of them to be exact, with some nice satin around the edges. Then you have a little storage pad thing. It's not a charging pad because there's a charging pad right here. There's a nice little pocket with 2 USB-C ports, 2 cup holders here, and then like I said, that Qi-enabled wireless charging pad here. Inside the center console, you got a nice deep pocket, 12-volt outlet, and 1 USB-C port. Little tiny pad with some gloss accent above the glove box, then just a standard normal size glove box. You have an auto-dimming rear view mirror up here, but no rear view mirror camera, but you do get that up on higher trim levels. And then you've got some LED dome lights here, black liner, and then that kind of leather material works its way over across the dash, over the glove box, more accent stitching as well, and then more of that gloss black like I mentioned, and then everything down from about knees down is hard black plastic. Now, as far as the seating surfaces go, these are a black Evotech seating surface. So they're kind of a hybrid seat, faux leather and cloth hybrid. So you've got this black leather that's on the majority of the seat with perforations down the center, and then little cloth accents on the bottom bolsters, as well as a cloth accent up top, and then a white faux leather accent as well. So some nice contrast. You also have contrast stitching. They're both heated seats. The driver is an 8-way power adjustable with 2-way lumbar support, and the passenger is a 6-way power adjustable seat. I have to be honest though, I'm a big fan of the all red seats that we took a look at on the RS trim, so I'd have a hard time avoiding those ones, but these ones look real nice too. Now, a couple packages have been added to this LT, the comfort and convenience package, which includes those power adjustable seats, with the power lumbar, the heated option, the Evotech's interior, the wireless phone charger, the heated and wrapped steering wheel, the inside auto dimming rearview mirror, the power folding outside mirrors, the satin roof rails, the auto sense liftgate, the trailering equipment, the hitch view, and the hitch guidance. That's the largest options package that you have, but you also have the driver confidence and convenience package, which gives you that adaptive cruise control, HD surround vision, enhanced automatic emergency braking, intersection automatic emergency braking, reverse automatic braking, rear pedestrian alert, and side bicyclist alert. But to kind of combat that, Chevy also added an LT Launch Edition credit, which is minus $3,520. So that basically keeps the price of the car exactly the same, regardless of the options that they added on. All right, hopping here into the back seat of the Blazer. Massive legroom. That's the first thing that stands out to me. I had my seat pretty far back, and I've got probably 6-7 inches of rear legroom. You can tuck your feet up underneath for even more. The seats kind of arc back a little bit. No issues there with legroom. Headroom's great too. We got a big slope on the roof here, plenty of headroom. Shoulder room, honestly, doesn't even feel that bad either. So pretty impressive backseat volume, but you do expect that. This is a decent size SUV. You do have map pockets in the back, some rear vents. You've got 2 USB-C ports here for charging, which is great. You can fold the center armrest down, get 2 additional cup holders. And these actually do have a tiny bit of recline. So this is their standard upright position. And then you can grab this handle, squeeze, push back a little bit, and you get just a couple degrees extra of incline, which is nice. Not a lot of complaints back here. You know, it's a little bit minimal. Door materials aren't great. Hard black plastic here instead of a soft touch. Everything else is great. Can't beat this legroom. All right, let's take the Blazer for a little test drive. Now, I've driven the RS Blazer a decent bit. I've not really driven the LT very much, but this is still the same kind of all-wheel drive variant. So it should feel very similar because as far as I can tell, all of the all-wheel drive variants have the same specs. So it's about 288 combined horsepower, but that's gonna put your 0 to 60 not amazing. I'll say that much. But we're gonna give it a test. So we'll come to a stop here, floor. So the noise, I don't know if you guys can hear that, but it has like a artificial whirring noise that kind of brings you to speed. I just don't like that. I'm actually gonna talk a little bit more about that in a second when I talk about my likes and dislikes on the Blazer. I just like the nice, quiet car. It doesn't make any noise, and you just know you're accelerating because you're going fast. It doesn't need to kind of pipe in this fake noise. We'll talk about that in a bit. And then here's at idle. About 41 at idle. And man, those brakes are solid. So it's in sport mode, and I just prefer the way sport mode drives. So you definitely get that instant acceleration, right? It's an EV, you're expecting that instant torque, that instant go, but it just doesn't have as much punch as some other vehicles. Even like the Bolt had more punch, I think, than this, but this is a heavier vehicle with not that much more horsepower. That's why I said earlier I'm super stoked to check out this SS, because I think the SS is gonna be an absolute beast. But I started this whole video by kind of pitching, should you buy the Blazer EV now with its current price point? I think it's really important to look at other vehicles in this segment, right? That's always the deciding factor. And obviously the #1 competitor is going to be the Model Y, right? It's the most popular selling vehicle. It's even more popular now for some reasons, which I'll mention in just a second. The Model Y is the electric SUV in this price point to buy. So how does the Blazer compare to the Y? Well, pricing, the Y wins in every category. It has a lower starting price, and with the tax credit, it's going to bring that price down even more. And with interest rates being crazy like they are, Tesla recently released an updated financing interest rate for the Model Y, and you can now lease any Model Y for 0.99% APR. That is absolutely insane. So the Model Y prices are at the floor right now. They've never been lower. They may never be lower again. So if you watch this video and the Blazer's not for you, definitely go check out the Model Y, because you're definitely gonna be able to get one of those for cheaper than you can get this Blazer, even at this lower price point, right? And this one's at about 50,000, slap the tax credit on, add tax, license, and fees. You're right around that, 40, 42 mark. And for 44,000, you can get a Model Y Performance, which is faster than this, better technology than this. Some people may prefer the minimal design versus more of a maximum design here in the Blazer. So that's, in my mind, the direct competitor. And I think if you're comparing the direct competitor, I think the Model Y is going to win. That is not to say that some people do not prefer the Blazer over the Model Y for some of those reasons that I just mentioned. Some people may prefer physical controls. The Blazer has that, more of that, I should say. Some people may prefer a physical driver information display in front of you. The Blazer has that. Some people may just prefer the look of the Blazer better than the Y, and that's valid and completely fair. And again, some people may just not like the minimal aesthetic that the Y provides and prefer something more like what the Blazer gives you, and that's totally fine too. But other vehicles you could consider, Kia has some nice EV offerings that are similar in size. Obviously, you could go with something a little bit smaller like the Hyundai Ioniq 5. The Blazer is pretty much going to be bigger than all of them. So if you really like the feel of a large SUV, the Blazer may be your best bet. Hyundai Ioniq 5 is going to be smaller. The Model Y is going to be a little bit smaller. There's plenty of other EV offerings now. The Volkswagen ID4, which I just made a video on the updated version of that. If you're interested, I'll have it linked above. So there's so many EV options these days to choose from. It's really going to matter what is important to you and what style you prefer. Now let's get a DB reading on the highway real quick. about 69 dB on the highway here. And we can try out our adaptive cruise control as well. Adaptive cruise selected, okay. So is it gonna keep me in the middle of the lane? It doesn't look like it's keeping me in the lane. That's unfortunate. I know you can also get Super Cruise, but we don't have it on this model. But let's talk about 3 things that I like about the Blazer and 3 things that are not my favorite. First and foremost, something that I really, really like about the Blazer is this display. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of the graphics package. I don't think it looks bad by any means. It's a little bit too like wannabe futuristic-y, like Tron looking for my taste. I like a little bit of a cleaner design. As far as functionality, usability, fluidity, screen size, resolution, all that, excellent. It's a top tier system for sure. Secondly, I really like the design of the Blazer on the outside, especially that RS with the red interior, the red and black, looks absolutely killer. But honestly, the LT doesn't suffer too much from being a lower trim level as far as design goes. I still think it looks nice. I still think a lot of the choices that Chevy made were the right ones. And then the third thing that I really like about the Blazer is the backseat volume. You really just get a ton of passenger volume back there. Super comfortable, nice, spacious seats, not only for transporting people if you need to, but also for extra storage space if you want to lay those seats down. I was really impressed. Now let's talk about the things that I don't like as much. So the first thing that I don't care as much for, I mentioned earlier, it's just the infotainment display. I really like the infotainment display, don't get me wrong, but I would have preferred if they kept their last gen system but made it on this big of a screen, because I don't love the new graphics package. It's just not my favorite. And the fact that it's fully integrated with Google, you have to use all of Google stuff if you want to use like podcasts and things. I don't love that. And the fact that they took away Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, to be fair, they took that away in lieu of this Android-based system, but only on electric cars. Like, if it's unsafe, then take it away from all cars. If that's your reasoning, it's not a real reason. They just said that because it makes them feel better. I don't even know why they said it, but that's not a valid reason to take CarPlay away. Hopefully they bring it back at some point, but I know people are a big fan of CarPlay. I don't use it as much, but the fact that you don't even have the option, that sucks. The second thing that is not my favorite is just the acceleration of the Blazer. It's a heavy vehicle, it's a large vehicle, and it only has like 280 horsepower. And you feel that, like it's not punchy, it's not zippy. I mean, even something like the ID4 that I mentioned earlier, when they updated it, they increased the motor power. That was one of the big changes they made because people said it was kind of lethargic to drive, which was my view as well. And the Blazer, I think at least, you know, these iterations that we've actually had access to, not the SS yet, I'll judge that when I actually get my hands on it, but in the 2 that I've driven, it's just not bad, but just nah. You just don't get that kind of exhilarating driving feel that you get on most other EVs, honestly. All right, and then finally for number 3, let's talk about this sound. I've mentioned this before, but every EV has a low speed kind of whirring sound that they make, and this is for safety reasons. But the Blazer has an accelerating sound that is fake as well. So can hear that pretty clearly, hopefully. It's like this very like electronic-y kind of spaceship whirring sound. It is a cool sound. Like, I like the sound. Some EVs, I don't love the sound as much. I think where it kind of bothers me a little bit, you don't need it. If you make an EV that's fast and accelerates quickly, why do you need a sound to like make you think it's going faster than it is? You know what I mean? And I think Chevy might be doing that on purpose. And that's a little bit sad in my opinion. You don't get in something like the Model Y performance, which I've actually made a review on. If you guys are interested, I'll have it linked down in the description. If you want to compare the Model Y to the Blazer, you don't get in a Model Y performance and floor it and it goes, it just doesn't do that, right? It just goes fast. And some of these other EVs do the same thing. They don't rely on a noise. They just go fast. I feel like the Blazer almost knows at this level that it can't go as fast as some of the competition. So it's like, we're gonna play a noise for you to make you feel like you're going faster than you actually are, or accelerating quicker than you actually are. And I think that it's rubbing me the wrong way a little bit in my second drive. Another weird little thing, ever since I've been driving, I don't know if you guys can hear it, anytime I go over a bump or a rough surface, there's like some rattling at the top corner there. I don't know, maybe that's just something's loose or something that needs to be fixed before it gets delivered, but just a little bit of rattling there. I'm not including this on my big list of 3 things I don't like, but another thing that kind of bothers me a little bit is just the kind of semi-autonomous driving systems that the Blazer does not have, at least not at this level. Like I said, you can't get Super Cruise, and that's okay, but you don't even really get like something comparable to Volkswagen's Travel Assist or Hyundai's Highway Driving Assist. Like you just get standard kind of adaptive cruise control. You get a lane keeping warning, but it like won't center you in the lane and kind of keep it going for you without you actually doing it yourself. So that's a little bit disappointing, and I feel like something they definitely could add, and something that most Chevy vehicles don't have. That's always kind of been a bummer to me because I feel like they're a little behind in that regard. I'm gonna try to answer the question I posed to you. Should you buy the Blazer now at this new price point? I'm still gonna say no, but it is a perfectly viable option now, whereas I don't think it was before. So would I buy it now at this price point? No. Would it make the list? Yeah, probably. Because I think there are some really nice things that people that are still transitioning from the ICE space or the internal combustion engine space to the EV space are really going to like, and I've mentioned a lot of them already in this video. Having a traditional driver information display, having some traditional buttons and dials and things, people really like that. Having it fit into a similar form factor as the current combustion engine Blazer. All those types of things are going to make it feel like a more seamless transition from gas to electric. But does it compete very well with all the other electric SUVs at this price point? I don't think so. 150 kilowatt fast charging, that's near the bottom of the list. Something like the Model Y, 250 kilowatt fast charging, 175 on the lower end, 250 on the top end. Hyundai Ioniq's way past that, 150 mark. That charging speed does not compete. The range, I think, is pretty on par. 279 miles for an all-wheel drive, that's pretty competitive. And it's a large SUV, it's larger than the Model Y like I mentioned. But the Model Y's all-wheel drive is gonna get upwards of 300 something miles of range, so it's still gonna lose out in that regard. Acceleration, it loses out to almost all of them, except for like rear-wheel drive variants of some of those vehicles. For this being an all-wheel drive variant and to not be able to compete acceleration-wise, that's a bummer for me. Like, it's not slow. If you go from an internal combustion engine to this, you're gonna be like, this is the fastest car I've ever driven, because it absolutely goes right off the bat. Like, there's no delay, but that's typical of an EV. It's not special anymore. There's so many vehicles that do it so much better, so much faster, that if you're shopping EVs, you're gonna be like, this one's kind of average. Not bad, just average. So the big 3 things that people think about, right? Performance, range, charging speed. Those are like the main things that people shop when they shop EVs. I don't know why. I do know why, like I understand that. But there's so many other factors to consider, and I think the technology is a huge one to consider, and I think the Blazer is pretty competitive in that segment too. But if you take the big 3, range, acceleration, and charging speed, the Blazer is just not as competitive as some other offerings from other manufacturers at similar or lower price points. And that's why I say I would still probably not pick the Blazer even at its new price point. But you could probably get some pretty competitive pricing on this thing because inventory is kind of stagnant and they're probably trying to move it. I think you could get some good deals. So if you really like the design of it, you really like the technology, you really like the physical buttons and dials, you're fine with 150 kilowatt fast charging or a little bit higher on some higher trim levels. You don't want to wait for the SS acceleration. You're good with this. Definitely go check it out. Test drive it for yourself. It's going to feel quick comparatively if you're coming from a gas vehicle, so you're definitely going to enjoy that. But if you're shopping EVs, I just have a really hard time thinking people are going to pick this over some of the other offerings unless you just absolutely love GM models. And then this is your best bet, unless you want to look at the Equinox, of course, which we'll be taking a look at soon. So about 55 at city speed. I'm gonna do one more little acceleration test. That's full 225 kilowatt output right there. It's not slow. I need to emphasize that enough because I feel like I kind of poo-pooed on the Blazer a little bit. I'm not meaning to. It's not slow. It's just not as fast as some of the competition. So thanks so much for watching, guys. Drop a like on the video if you loved it. Let me know down in the comments, what do you think about the Blazer LT? You like this trim? Are you gonna go pick one up? Have you been shopping it around? How do you think it compares to some of the other EVs that you've driven or the other combustion engine vehicles you've driven? Let's talk about it down in the comments, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button to be among the first to see every single new video the second I hit publish. We'll see you in the next one.